Today's episode is a really important one for all of our women freelancers out there, especially in light of Equal Pay Day. So, what is Equal Pay Day? Well, this holiday was originated by the National Committee on Pay Equity in 1996 as a public awareness event to illustrate the gap between men's and women's wages. Back then, it was called the National Pay Inequity Awareness Day, and then later it was changed to Equal Pay Day in 1998. The date was picked to represent how far into the year a woman needed to work. At that time, it was over 4 months, in order to be paid what men had made the prior year. According to the organization Equal Rights Advocates, according to 2022 census data, the wage gap for all women compared to men is 78 cents on the dollar for all earners. And this includes part-time folks, full-time year-round people, part-time year workers as well, so seasonal jobs. So if we break down this a bit, the organization also reported the following for women of color. Asian women, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific women, the number is 80 cents. For Black women, it's 66 cents. For moms, it's 62 cents. For Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander women specifically, it's 60 cents. For Native women in the United States, it's 55 cents. And Latinas come in at 52 cents for all earners. And if you want to see more statistics, you can check that out at equalpaytoday.org. So this means that women lose at least $400,000 over the course of a 40-year career compared to men. And these numbers are staggering and infuriating. They represent real disparities in the pay for the same work done by different people solely based on their gender. It's really hard to digest the stark realities of the wage gap, especially when considering its impact on women and especially women of color. When I think and I reflect on my early career, I remember discussions about this, and I remember how they were often dismissed by both men and women, men and then women who had internalized things. Now I'm glad to see that there's more awareness, especially on social media, about Equal Pay Day, but the struggle is far from over, as you can see from these stats. When I was in my 20s, a lot of the messaging I heard was, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, don't play the victim. I would hear, just work hard, keep your head down, and you'll be recognized. But as I've grown up, I've realized that these responses were part of the problem. They really perpetuate a system that underpays women, especially women of color. And it's frustrating to hear arguments that attempt to minimize this issue, to quiet this issue, to always question, why do we have to bring up women and race and gender and all of these things? But as you can see in the facts, the numbers from sources like the US Census Bureau, these numbers speak for themselves. It's not about anybody asking for handouts. Women aren't being entitled, emotional, or hysterical. This is about equal pay for equal work. Like I mentioned, over a 40-year career, the cumulative loss for women can be staggering, and it impacts their retirement. As you know, women live longer than men. It affects their overall financial independence. In a society that values self-sufficiency, it's ironic to see that when you're trying to work hard and you're still affected by these archaic, unfair systems. That's why I see freelancing as a path to flexibility and freedom, sure, but also as a way to take control of your financial destiny. There's been some incremental progress in corporate America, but there hasn't been a lot of change. There's still a long way to go. And I don't know if it will happen in my lifetime. Entrepreneurship for now gives another option. And I know it's not feasible for everyone. I know that there's a level of privilege with entrepreneurship because at the beginning, you may not always make money right away. Some people can't afford to take that time. But I do think freelance puts you in the driver's seat. You have the power to set your rates. You have the power to choose the clients that respect your work, that value what you bring to the table, and you can negotiate more. If a client, it's just not working out, you can get a new client, and that's more straightforward and a little easier than navigating the traditional job market. For someone like me, a mom, woman of color, and a Latina who statistically earns the least for the same work, stepping outside the traditional workplace makes sense for me. And I know freelancing is not without its challenges. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it does offer a unique opportunity for women, especially those who face the biggest pay disparities, to take control of their financial future. And we need to keep pushing. We need to keep pushing for change in corporate America and the government through the awareness campaigns like this and through concrete actions in government and in corporate sectors. In the interim, we as individuals can explore options like freelancing and side hustles, negotiating better in our jobs, and discussing compensation, sharing notes with our peers so we can all kind of do our piece to bridge this gap. So, in light of Equal Pay Day, we here at Talk Freelance to Me are going to be talking about strategies for negotiating equal pay as a woman freelancer. First up is understanding the market rates. You got to know the going rate for the work that you're offering. You want to make sure that you're aligned with the industry standards and also take into account your unique skills and experience. First thing is to start doing your homework, start talking to other freelancers, those who offer similar services to you. It's essential to have these conversations along with any online research that you'll do. And we'll talk about that in a moment. You want to reach out to writers in your network, people in the same field. It could be men and women, and actually definitely include the men so you can know where you stand. Talk to people more experienced than you and even less experienced, because freelance, there's no rules to it. So you're going to get a diverse pool of insights, and this will help you figure out what's realistic in what to charge for services and even what's achievable in different niches. Remember, the only people who benefit from secrecy around compensation and tabooism is these large corporations. When we don't discuss rates, we inadvertently play into their hands. In contrast, when we share this information openly, we actually help each other. And I know it's hard. I know it's not comfortable, but sharing is caring, and it can make things fairer for everyone. And of course, these conversations shouldn't start and stop just about money. Building a community with other freelancers is invaluable when it comes to sharing resources, ideas, referrals, leads, and even overflow work. So don't restrict your inquiries to just local people. You can expand your horizon. Talk to freelancers in different geographical areas, even other countries. This will give you a broad spectrum of rates, and you can see the nuances related to location, experience level, and niches. You might be surprised at the range you'll find, but it's all valuable data. If you're new to this and say you don't know a lot of writers, this is the time to dig the well before you need it and meet people. Start making these connections, and not transactional. Make real relationships. Look for associations and groups tailored to freelancers, whether it's other writers, graphic designers, or other fields. You can find these folks in groups on Facebook, LinkedIn, there's forums, and you can engage with people that way. The digital world offers endless possibilities for networking. You can meet people on LinkedIn, you can have Zoom calls, you can have Google Chats, or just start a relationship, friendship with the DMs and messages. Approach this like you would any other assignment with the research. So after you've talked to people, it's good to think about research that you can find online. All of this is a part of understanding the landscape that you're operating in. This is how you lay the groundwork for negotiating equal and fair pay as a freelancer, no matter how you identify. Also, when you're talking to people, you also want to check out industry-specific websites and forums. Many fields, whether you're in writing or graphic design, digital marketing, or something else, have dedicated online spaces where professionals discuss rates. Different freelance thought leaders, organizations, and associations sometimes host periodic surveys to capture rate information from their members, and often they release this data through special reports and even dynamic databases. For writing, for example, the Editorial Freelancers Association has for a long time had a chart on their website available to anyone that shows rates for writers. And a lot of writers argue that these rates are too low, but at least they're a benchmark and a starting point. You can find information on rates for the median pay for copy editing, coaching and consulting, editing, marketing, project management, proofreading, research, fact-checking, and more. So it's not just writing by the word. I'll include all the links to the show note in the show notes for these websites I'm going to share, but it's the-efa.org, and you can click on rates. Upwork, ZipRecruiter, and Peak Freelance have all gathered and released data about freelance rates as well. Check out their websites. In addition, Jessica Walrack, who we had on the show, and her team at All Things Freelance Writing surveyed writers last fall. They released their compensation data on her website. And Jennifer Goforth Gregory also regularly surveys her fellow writers with her State of the Freelance Writing Survey. And you can see that data on her website. Side note, she runs one of my favorite freelance writing Facebook groups. Her group is called the Freelance Content Marketing Writer. It's got 9,000 members. It's a great place. It's well moderated, good place to connect with other writers. In 2012, the website whopayswriters.com was created as a database where you can actually search for different publication titles and see how much they pay per word or per project. You can also see how long it takes to get paid once the work is complete. That's at whopayswriters.com. In 2019, some journalists got together and created a Google spreadsheet called Real Media Salaries. Journalists and writers and content creators anywhere in the world can anonymously input what they make per hour for their title. They can know their gender and how much experience they have. Freelance job boards and platforms can also be great places to look as well for different projects, both that you can go ahead and pitch for, but it can give you an idea of what compensation looks like, what clients are offering. And these are good ballpark figures. Remember, these can be on the lower end due to the competitive nature of these platforms, but again, it's a data point. Connecting with other writers, doing this online research, these are both great ways to get a baseline for the rates for the types of freelance services that you offer. And it's not enough to just do this once and forget it. The freelance market, just like the economy, is dynamic. Rates can change. You want to regularly update your knowledge about current rates so that you can keep up with the trends. You can subscribe to industry newsletters, be part of Jennifer's groups and others. You can, subscribe to emails like mine so you can stay in the know and stay active in your professional communities. This will keep you informed about the latest rate changes. And you want to keep an eye out for, of course, the broader economic factors that might influence your rates. For example, if there's an increased demand for a certain skill or a shift in the industry that you're specializing in, this could be a good time to adjust your rates. Now, so once you know about your rates, you want to think about the value of what you're offering to your client. You want to start first with yourself. Think about what your skills are, what your experience is, what your subject matter expertise might be, and the unique aspects of your work. You want to ask yourself some key questions. What specific skills do I have that set me apart from other freelancers? What unique experiences do I have that add value to my work? It could be a niche specialty, it could be a unique writing style, special understanding of a particular industry or client base. Consider additional services that you offer that might not be typical in your field. Identify those elements that make you, you, and own them. And don't just rely on self-reflection. Look at your testimonials. If you don't have a brag book, start making one. Emails from past happy clients, testimonials, mentors, they can all kind of give you these insights. If you haven't done testimonials or asked for some and done some case studies of your work, this is a good time to add it to your to-do list as well. Consider the impact of the work that you will perform for your client. Ask them what they want to achieve with this product. You want to drill down and really see what they want, what they're expecting, because they might think they want one thing and they're thinking that this product is the vehicle to get them there, but you might have another ideas on what they really should be doing to achieve the outcome that they need. This part of the conversation is really important for managing those expectations later. So, will your services save them time, make them money, make them more efficient? Are you going to help them generate revenue by what you're writing or doing? For example, say you're writing something for a personal injury attorney. You want to think about the long-term value of your work. Say you're making a lead magnet, a downloadable resource that's going to live on their website indefinitely and continually generate leads for them. These leads could potentially turn into clients that could give them substantial revenue from hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars in settlements or verdicts. Think about the lasting ROI that you're offering. Your service isn't just about the time that it takes you to do the project or even necessarily the going rate and whatever you researched for earlier. It's about what this is going to do for your client. If it's going to make him money, save him money, think about the impact on his business and bottom line. Now, think about pricing. When it comes to setting your project rate as a freelancer, this is really a blend of an art and science. You've done all your homework on the market rates and understanding the client's goals. You've thought about the impact of the product to the business. But now let's dig a little bit deeper. And you want to focus on the various factors that contribute to a fair and profitable project fee. Jot down all the tasks that are going to be involved in you delivering this project for your customer. So for a writing project, this could include initial research. You might have to review a lot of materials that the client provides you, such as customer surveys or articles. And you need to account for that time that you're going to spend getting oriented. You're going to want to factor in the actual time for writing, the internal editing and proofing that you're going to do. Also think about client communication, so phone calls and Zoom meetings that are part of the project. Think about revisions. If you're offering, say, 2 rounds of edits in the project fee, you want to estimate the time that these will take you. This foresight, even if it's just estimates, it can help you in setting a rate that covers your effort in a more comprehensive way. Also, think about taxes. As a freelancer, you're responsible for more taxes than a W-2 employee. I usually like to think about 25 to 30% tacking on to cover this. Also, think about your overhead expenses, softwares that you maintain, costs that you have for running your business. You need to factor in these pieces as a cost of doing business in general. Think about the niche, turnaround time, number of people who are involved in the, say, the project approval process. All of those factors, you need to consider them when you're coming up with a project fee. Also, as a freelancer, you're not getting paid time off, sick days, health insurance, disability benefits. These are more thinking like with your overhead costs, but you need to think about these things when you're baking them into your project pricing. You want to be realistic about the time that you need to complete this project. If you underestimate your time a lot, or if you've dealt with projects that have gone out of scope because of change requests, you want to think about these things when you are considering your pricing. You want to have profit. After all, a business isn't sustainable without profit. You want to use all of these elements to calculate a project fee that fairly compensates you for your expertise, the effort, and the impact your work will have on the client's business. Now, let's talk about effectively communicating this value to your client. You want to shift the narrative from simply selling a service to highlighting the benefits that your work will bring. For example, when you're discussing a project with the client, you want to think about the potential outcomes of your work. You want to use phrases like, "This lead magnet can continuously attract new clients for your firm even when you sleep," potentially resulting in significant revenue gains. You want to frame your service not just as a cost, but an investment for the client. Again, you're not just selling your time or a specific task. You're offering a solution that adds value to your client's business. When you can demonstrate how your work is going to translate into tangible benefits, whether it's saving money, generating revenue, providing some kind of competitive advantage, you position yourself as an invaluable asset and consultant, not just another service provider. So let's talk about negotiation. One of the biggest parts of negotiation that not a lot of people talk about is the homework element. And a lot of the activities that we've already spoken about thus far, in terms of looking at the market rates, considering the time that it's going to take you to actually do the project, and then the impact and value that the project's going to bring to your client's company or bottom line. You're going to use all of these talking points in your negotiations to show that you've done your homework, and you can even have this information in your back pocket. Clients sometimes just don't know what the going rate is for things. They might have preconceived ideas on what an article should cost. They may not understand all the steps that it takes to writing, say, website copy. And so you have to give them a little bit of that education. If you just give them a number, they might have some sticker shock if they are having these assumptions about what things cost and you haven't walked them through the process. So by having these conversations and walking them through your specific process, talking about all the things that you've taken into account, they can understand all the work that's going into the project. And they can also have confidence because they see that you have a system and a process. Also, when you're negotiating, it's not just about price. You can negotiate deadline, you can negotiate the scope of work. For example, if they're asking for a lot of different things. You can pitch for a certain piece of the business, or you can offer other services that they may not have asked you for explicitly. You want to define what the project entails and equally what it does not. And this can help you prevent scope creep. It ensures that you're compensated fairly for any additional work that goes beyond that initial agreement, and it manages the expectations from the client so there's not any surprises. Another key aspect is negotiating the rights, the copyright terms. So if you can decide who has the copyright, whether it's transferred to the client upon payment, whether you retain certain rights after so long. Can you offer, say, a written article? Can you offer it to another magazine and do reprints? All of these things can have implications on the future of your work. Negotiating payment terms is also important. So you want to think about the payment schedule, the upfront deposit when you're, especially in a new relationship, interim payments for certain milestones, and of course, the final payment. You also want to think about your payment policies, such as a cancellation policy, a kill fee for your articles. You want to have all of these things in place just in case to protect you. Deadlines, scope of work, copyright terms, payment, cancellation policies, they're all negotiable and they can shape the overall value and the terms of the freelance project. Again, doing this and talking about all of these details can foster clear mutual understanding with your customer, and it can lead to more successful and harmonious working relationships. Now, when it comes time to actually present your proposal to a client, especially for significant projects, right? Like a white paper or overhauling a website for someone, it's really important to think about going beyond just emailing them a quote. A more interactive approach can lead to better understanding and results. So for substantial projects, I would consider scheduling a Zoom meeting or in-person meeting to present your proposal to the customer. So during this session, you can walk the client through the proposal, not really reading it to them, but kind of showcasing and offering some context. You can highlight key points, and especially the value that you bring. This face-to-face interaction, even if it's virtual, provides an opportunity for feedback and questions. You can help clarify things, resolve uncertainties, and build rapport and trust. You can also use words. You've probably seen this. Instead of using price, you can use things like investment. Don't use things like cost. Little things like that can shift the client's perspective. So you can show them that your services are their value add to your business and not just an expense. When you're presenting your proposal, you want to be clear and concise about what's included. You want to emphasize any unique aspects or benefits of your service. If you have different package options, for example, if you have a starter package, something in the middle, and then a premium, outline the value that each package brings. Use visual aids, including past work, testimonials. These can really be helpful when you're trying to illustrate successful outcomes similar to what your client is seeking. After the meeting, go ahead and follow up with the customer and then give them that detailed proposal to review. Of course, they can use this to refer back to. It helps solidify the discussion points from the meeting. The way that you present your proposal, the professionalism that you bring, the attention to detail, it's part of that negotiation experience, just like the numbers. You're selling them the experience and the expertise that you bring into the table, not just the deliverables. So, what about pushback? You know you're going to get pushback. It's a common, natural part of the business process. It's essential to understand that pushback isn't often an attack on you, your worth as a person, or your value as a professional. Remember, clients are just like us. We're looking to maximize our value and also minimize our cost. It's a basic principle of business. We do it also. We want to get what we can at the lowest cost. So remove the emotion from the equation and allow yourself to approach negotiations more objectively. When you're faced with pushback or questions, you want to listen carefully to the client's concerns and reasons. It shows respect for their viewpoint, but it gives you vital information to tailor your response with. It's a dialogue. Remember, negotiation, it's a conversation. It's not a confrontation. You're on the same team. You're trying to find a way to get to the same place. Maintain your composure. If you feel your emotions rising, you need to pause and breathe and help yourself to feel calm and collected. Approach the situation with understanding that you're negotiating a specific project or service, not your worth as a person. Reassert your value in a respectful, kind, professional manner. Highlight the unique benefits and results that your work will bring to their company. Use facts and examples to reinforce your points, and be flexible if you can in finding a middle ground that respects both your worth and what the client's looking for in terms of their constraints and budget. Now, sometimes you got to walk away. We can talk about that next. If the client's budget truly doesn't align with the value of what you provide, it is okay to politely decline. There's a fine line between negotiating and undervaluing your work. Just because this specific client is not in a position to compensate you for the work that you're offering doesn't mean that other clients won't. Remember, it's not just about the budget. Sometimes you might get a spidey sense when you're negotiating with a client that could represent some red flags that you're seeing. Things like unrealistic demands, expecting an unreasonable turnaround time for complex projects, a scope of work that far exceeds the compensation that's been offered, outright disrespect towards your time, towards you as a person. You can read a lot in people's body language and how they treat you in the whole process. If they repeatedly miss meetings, if they disregard professional recommendations that you're giving them, a general lack of clarity, especially when it comes to their goals or their expectations. If they don't know what they want, then you're set up to fail. You can't give them what if they don't know what they want. You need to know how to gracefully walk away. Remember that every interaction is a reflection of your brand, so you want to maintain professionalism and approach the situation with courtesy. You can say things like, I appreciate your interest, but I feel that my services may not align with the needs of this project. Or, given the scope of this project, I believe you might benefit from a different type of service provider. You want to leave things on a good note. You never know, the door might be open for future opportunities or referrals, but you can still firmly decline and be clear in regards of your current conversation. You'll always want to thank them for their consideration and leave the conversation on a positive note. This way you protect your brand and professional reputation while also respecting the potential client's needs. We've talked about a lot today. As we wrap up, remember that freelancing isn't just about flexibility and freedom. It's an empowering option to help you take control of your financial destiny, especially in a world where wage disparities remain a significant challenge for women. While freelancing isn't a universal solution, it offers unique opportunities, especially for those of us affected most by the pay gaps. As we continue to push for change in both the corporate world and government sectors, it's important to remember that actions like negotiating our worth, openly discussing compensation can help us do what we can to bridge the gap. By empowering ourselves and each other, we're not only fostering individual success, but also contributing to a broader movement toward equality and fairness. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. And remember, every step that you take toward asserting your value and seeking fair compensation is a step toward a more equitable and professional world. So keep pushing forward, keep advocating for your worth, and let's continue to support each other.